All right, thanks for joining us for another episode of The Humm. Today we're talking with Sally about Google Ad Grants. Stay tuned. Okay, Sally, we're here talking about Google Ad Grants.
Yes.
Starting it off, what are they and who are they for?
Sure. So Google Ad Grants, not to be confused with your regular everyday Google Ads.
Yep.
A while back, Google decided to allot a certain amount of money to nonprofits. So who are they for? Google Ad Grants are for nonprofits like museums, humanitarian efforts, botanical gardens. There's even some efforts where companies will encourage the education for, let's say, young girls learning how to do computer programming. They can get very, very specific, but as long as you're a 501c3, then that's one of the many steps to qualify.
Okay.
And you can get up to $10,000 for if you become a Google Ad Grant client. But then there are also pro clients, which aren't really talked about, but they can get up to $40,000 a month.
Wow. And is that then an annual allotment or is it a monthly allotment?
Monthly,
wow.
Yeah. So it's a lot of free money, if you will.
Okay. Why don't we talk about some of the requirements involved?
Right.
You said nonprofits, so it's exclusive to nonprofits.
Yes.
And they have to be 501(c)(3)(b.
501c3.
There you go.
Or
okay.
ABCD.
Yeah, pick a letter.
One of those. Yeah, so I mean, one of the things they have to be is 501c3, but to even pre-qualify, you have to go to the Google for Nonprofits website and sign up there. If you are accepted there, then you can continue to move on in this qualification process.
Gotcha.
From there, you need to create a Google Ad Grants account, even though you're not yet a Google Ad Grants client. From there, you submit a pre-qualification survey. Really, this isn't for Google, this is for you. This is to save you a lot of time because if for some reason you wouldn't qualify, you're going to find out in the pre-qualification survey.
Gotcha.
And we have all that information. Google has all that information too, but we have it all in one place for you, which you can click on at the end of this video or right here if you want to read it.
Probably down below.
So anyway, you have to have 501c3. You have to go to the Google for Nonprofits website, submit the pre-qualification survey, and then take the Ad Grants training. The training is also to help you understand what you're getting yourself into, because Google Ad Grants is very different from Google Ads because they're giving you this money, if you will. Yep. There are certain stipulations, which are always changing. That's kind of the name of the game with Google. Things are always changing, but for example, one of the rules used to be that you could only spend a maximum of $2 on your CPC, on your cost per click. That's since been lifted as of last year. Sometime in 2018, I believe they lifted that. But there's also other rules which can be pretty strenuous if you are focused, let's say, on e-commerce sales. You have to have a 5% click-through rate. It doesn't seem like a lot, but especially when you're first starting out and you don't have the data to kind of capitalize on that, and if you're e-commerce and you're really focused on selling a product in order to raise money for your nonprofit, you're probably more focused on cost per conversion.
Right.
But when you have the grant, you really need to be focused on the click-through rate. So you're, in my eyes, going to have a much higher cost per conversion because you're trying to reach Google's requirements to keep your campaign alive. If you fall below that 5% click-through rate, they'll shut you down. And then you have to reapply.
Yeah. So it's really something where it seems like it's obviously great that they're giving us money up front to help these nonprofits,
yes.
But it's more complicated than the typical setup because the requirements top it. Plus you're battling just, again, learning Google Ads, fighting maybe a competitive nonprofit as well, or even profit companies are in that space.
Yeah.
So it's really probably having someone internally that already knows how to run Google Ads, or leveraging a partner and using that money you saved on your ad spend to hire a professional.
Yeah, they don't make it easy. And if you're just jumping into it, I would even say, even if you had a certified person in Google Ads, I mean, even myself, I had to learn Google Ad Grants as a separate entity. Like when I went into that education, I went into it putting everything I knew about Google Ads aside for that moment.
Yeah.
Because your best practices have to be slightly different. Not completely different, but they do, your strategies have to kind of alter because you're focused on maybe two different things. Your goal as your nonprofit, but then also Google's goal to keep you alive. Because if they shut your campaign down because you don't have that 5% click-through rate, then you're spending time, shoot, now I gotta try to reapply, and you're losing time. And when you lose time, you lose data. And when you lose data, you're not getting the best bang for your buck, whether it's free or not.
And I feel like some nonprofits we've talked with have tried Google Ad Grants and felt, well, it's just not effective for us. And that just comes down to, I think, any client that's working with Google Ads. In some situations, it might be too expensive. In this case, you're getting quite a healthy budget per month. So it might just be how you're executing those ads, building campaigns. And again, like you said, you're not just battling competitors, you're battling now Google in a sense to stay. So it's more complicated than what appears.
And they're pretty restrictive to what kinds of campaigns you can have, like search. You can do a search campaign, but you can't do a shopping campaign. So if you're familiar with seeing ads, let's just say you search for t-shirts on Google, and you know how you see those squares where it has pictures of t-shirts that you can buy? That's Google Shopping. That's Google Shopping ads. You cannot do that if you have a Google Ad Grant. You have to spend your own money to do that. Now below those, where you have the text ads, that's your search campaign. That you can do. So there's definitely more restrictions there. And I mean, I get it. I get that Google wants to make sure that they're taking care of their paid clients, as well as being able to offer something to nonprofits without completely isolating your paid companies. There's a balance there, and I think Google is learning that balance as well, which is why they had the $2 CPC and then they got rid of it because it was too much of a restriction with the nonprofits. We see nonprofits having to spend their own money to get into the game of shopping ads and things like that. So I think in my opinion, they may have seen such a shift with nonprofits spending their own money, seeing that was a problem, so that they released the maximum $2 CPC, but they're still holding strong in that 5% click-through rate.
Well, it's good they're listening and adapting, and obviously there's going to be stipulations, and they're giving you quite a bit of money to go spend on their platform, so there's going to be stipulations, but it's good they're listening.
Right. I mean, there's always someone or something or some algorithm listening.
Of course.
Something's always changing. But again, I mean, we touch on this all the time because it's so important. When these changes happen, you have to be aware of them, because let's say they put a max CPC again and you didn't know, and your campaigns get shut down.
Flagged,
and you have nobody watching them, or maybe they haven't looked at them in a month or so, and your entire campaign is shut down, and that's a huge part of your marketing effort, especially if you are a qualified Google Ad Grant client. You really want someone dedicated in your marketing department or your agency to be dedicated into looking and managing that on a daily basis.
Excellent. So we're going to link to our perspective article in this video that will give some more details about how to become, if you're eligible, what the steps are to kind of get through that process.
Yeah, what I tried to do there was put, because Google can be confusing, there's a ton of information, and because they love click-through rates, they want you to click through all their information as well. It only helps them. So what I tried to do was take all that information and put it in one article for you. I made it, and I simplified it. So everything you need to know about Google Ad Grants, about if you're qualified, what you need to do once you're qualified, and then what you need to do to stay active, to stay qualified. All of that is in this one article. So you can even bookmark that.
Perfect.
If it helps.
Excellent.
Here to help.
Here to help. Well, thank you very much for explaining Google Ad Grants.
Absolutely.
And if there's any questions, please comment in the video.
See ya.
Bye.